Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am PANCZASU and welcome to the first video of my Drakken's tutorial slash playthrough. If you have ever played Endless Legend in multiplayer, or maybe if you have just checked the official forums for this particular game, there's no way you don't know about Drakken's reputation. They are known for their fierceness and powerfulness, by which I'm trying to say that generally speaking, most people agree they are the most powerful race in Endless Legend as of right now. Now obviously, this game will be continuously patched for quite some time, at least I hope, which means that there will be eventually a bit more balanced, and even then, even now, we could argue that more or less they are okay. They are too powerful, but they are within the realms of what we could call acceptable. Still, they are scary, and that is generally what most people agree on. So let us start by talking a little bit more about them. Let's have a quick look at the Drakken selection screen. So, what are the Drakken known for? They are known for a combination of traits that on their own are nothing really all that spectacular. However, when we combine all of those traits together, we are given an extremely formidable faction that is difficult to deal with if you're fighting against it. So let's start off with their units on their own. First of all, they are known for being incredibly tanky. When you look at the Drakken, a very cheap tier 1 infantry unit that they start off with, it has a 164 life and an amazing 48 defense. If we try to go into, look at something else, like for example, let's have a quick look at the Foragers. That's 100 life and 38 defense. Or we could try to have a look at, hold on a second, the Broken Lord Stouts. That's 140 life with 52 defense. So, okay, I know what you're going to say. It's kinda, the Drakken links are not that amazing. We can compare them to Star Wars more or less. True and not true at the same time. You see, the Drakken links have the incredibly useful ability of Fast Learner. So whereas the Broken Lords can heal their Star Wars, the Drakken can level up the Drakken links into oblivion before anybody else can even understand what on earth is actually happening. So the life they are starting with will increase dramatically after the first few turns of the game, as a result of those units gaining levels faster than other regular units of other empires. Which is a pretty big deal, let me tell you that. If you're facing a wall of high-level Drakken links, you're not gonna get past easily, trust me when I say this. Next unit is the Wyvern. Wyvern is a curious one. You see, the Drakkens have no access to any ranged units, which could be a problem. Some factions compensate for that with flying units, like for example Necrophages. They don't need ranged units really, they have Necro drones, which are absolutely amazing. Well, the Wyverns aren't that. In all honesty, yes, they still have the Fast Learner ability, which is nice, but because their stats are a little bit more evenly spread out than in case of Drakken links, it's not nearly as useful. You see, Fast Learner mostly benefits units that are pumping all their stats into one particular thing. In case of Drakken links, it's survivability. In case of Wyverns, it's a bit of nothing. Yes, they do have nice attack and damage, but keep in mind, it's an upgraded unit. It's a tier 2 or tier 1 or whatever, however you want to look at that unit. And it doesn't really fit its purpose as well as most other flying units. What I like to use my flying units for is sniping key enemy units, using them for, precision strikes and whatnot, which usually comes down to killing enemy rangers. Yes, I know what you think, rangers are usually good at killing flying units. However, I personally view it as flying units, while they can die quickly to ranged units, they're also the ones that have the easiest time killing ranged units, so it's an interesting metagame going on right there. Still, Wyverns are not the best for the job, because compared to other flying units, their attack, damage and special abilities are lacking. But still, they compensate for that with health and defense that is surprisingly good. And they can have some uses, but for the most part, I would much rather just have additional Drakken links instead of Wyverns. It all, of course, depends. And then we have the Ancients, which are big giant dragons that are surprisingly meh. You really don't care about Ancients in combat, in all honesty, because what they do is they just yawn and they hurl whirling, I don't know, not really even fireballs, they are more like fire tornadoes, which sounds awesome in theory. In practice, it's like a breeze, more likely. They deal little damage, they take a lot of damage, by which I mean they don't have a lot of life or defense. They are all in all kind of worthless, if not for the fact that they have the shared wisdom ability, which gives all the surrounding units a bonus to morale, which is a pretty important deal. You just need one of those in your army at any given time, you shouldn't have more than one. But if you have one, it makes the surrounding Drakkenlings very tough to kill, and very likely to actually deal some damage to the enemy as well, as a result of higher morale, because the problem with Drakkenlings is that they are not really all that good at killing. It's hard to kill them, true, but they're not that good at killing others. So let's set up a game. Now, because of several reasons I cannot really talk about, I do not want this tutorial slash playthrough to be too long. So we're just going to play this on a small map with only 3 AIs. I know this is not what you're used to, you like seeing those big playthroughs and whatnot, but trust me, I should not let this go for too long. So let's just leave it at that. We could say that I don't want things to drag on. I'll show myself the way out, sorry. Anyway, what are the world settings? Well, they're the same as always. All victory conditions except for score victory. Go away, you meanie. Away. Speed scale factor is fast. I was tempted to go for very fast, but fast in my opinion is good enough. Let's apply that. Let me check if everything is fine over here as well. As you can see, I went for custom stuff. That was supposed to be random round percentage, but 70%. Yeah, let's go for random. Random is nice. 1, 2, 3 continents. Considering that there are only 4 empires in total, I think it's fine if we have 1 continent, but with random island odds, randoming out does none. Huh, that's interesting. See around the end is random. What about wrap? Hemisphere is random because random is fun. I like random. That's pretty much what you all know about me. Then we've got empire spawn average. Yeah, I'm fine with average. Then we've got rare resources because that's the merely way. Anomaly odds normal because I like those anomalies because they look pretty. Hard minor factions and a random seed. Apply that. Now, I could leave enemy empires at random, but on the one hand, I want this playthrough to be quick. On the other, I want this to be at least mediocrely challenging. So I'm going to pick the best factions to fight against the Drakken. At least keep in mind, I'm talking about this from the single player AI perspective. In multiplayer, metagame is quite a bit different, so I'm not covering that up. So anyway, the first empire will be the Wild Walkers. They are pretty good counter to Drakken as a result of their 4-range Dekari Rangers, which again, Drakken do not have any ranged units. And the flyers are not the best flyers you could use to snap down the enemy Dekari Rangers. You can try to do so, but they're not necessarily the best for your job. So Wild Walkers are a pretty good bet if you want to have a good AI against your Drakken forces. Next one I'm going to pick are the Other Mages. Now the thing about Other Mages is that A, they are awesome, and B, they are actually one of the few factions that is capable of actually dealing damage to your army. Like I said, Drakken have incredibly tanky army. Combine that with their hero, who has amazing bonuses and can heal your army as well as kill the enemy army efficiently. It's really tough to do anything to any of the Drakken's units. Other mages can't do that because Drakkenlings, they deal very small amount of damage, which means that the other mages units that can turn their lost HP into damage will become more and more powerful as the battle goes on, and in result they should end up overpowering their opponents near the later stages of the combat. Additionally, spells also very helpful. So other mages, pretty good opponent for the Drakken. And last but by no means least, we're gonna have the Voters, which I'm gonna set to be the Messari. Now those guys are not warfare opponents as a result of their faction units. More like they are warfare opponents because they are really good at grabbing the science victory, so they're gonna put me on the clock. If I want to be a peaceful Drakken and try to get my diplomacy victory or whatever, it's gonna be difficult because those Messari bastards will do their best to get to the science victory as quickly as humanly possible, and it might not be possible to beat them without a bit of war, which I'm personally okay with. That's not to say that I'll try to be a warmonger. I only will be a warmonger if that is necessary. However, that is all I need to say now. It's been 10 minutes so far, so let me just generate the word and pause the recording. Alright, our map has just been generated and this is the area we're going to start in. So far it looks pretty good. So before I actually talk about what I'm going to do with my first units and settling a new city and whatnot, I believe it is more important to cover about the defining Drakken features first. One of them is one of the traits, which allows them to see the position of every other starting player on the map. So you get to see what the enemy is up to on the first turns. So first of all, I know that there are the animators. They have settled down already and they've got a nice selection of tiles. No dust at all though, so it will be difficult for them to cast their pillars and spells. Still, they have access to river, so they can easily get access to a lot of dust soon enough. And overall, it looks like a decent enough opening, although they have no anomalies anywhere, which would be not ideal. Then we've got the Wild Walkers. They got themselves a beautiful start, and they will be my main opponent most likely. They have a river, they have plenty of trees from which they benefit a ton. They have a mutant marsh, so again, even more Fitzy. Nearby they've got the spices, which are one of the best luxury resources in the game by far. They have access to glass steel. They will be my main opponent in this game, I can guarantee this. Also looks like there's a body of water between me and them, so killing them would be particularly difficult. Then we've got the voters who have not settled down yet, or rather the Mezari. I'm curious what they'll do, but hold... Are you saying this? 4 anomalies and they're so good, right next to each other. More spells, that's pretty good. Mitochondria, I have no idea how to pronounce it. That's amazing, and it also gives you happiness. Then we've got a botanical garden for even more happiness, and wine deposit. That's not actually an anomaly, but still, this place is a gold mine. Almost literally. I mean, it doesn't give you a lot of dust actually, so not literally at all, but... Yeah, they are also potential candidates for most important opponents. Other mages looks like they have the worst start so far, but let's look at what else the Drakken have going for them. Aside from being able to see the enemy, we also have diplomatic pressure, which allows me to force a truce, peace, or alliance on a targeted empire. This is what I'll use to win the game, hopefully. So how does it work and when you're supposed to use it? Well, think of it this way. Let's say you have a big, sprawling, powerful empire, and let's say that I conquered other mages, right? But you are endangered by 2 powerful empires. You are stronger than individual of the 2 empires, but together the 2 empires can potentially knock you down. So I'm here and there are Wild Walkers and Voters. Let's say that they are both powerful, a bit weaker than me, but they can both attack me and potentially kill me. What I do then is immediately declare war on one of them. I do mean that, yes, and attack them. So if the second empire joins the fight, what I do is I just force them to sign a truce with me and lock them into a ceasefire for several turns, giving me plenty of time to mop up the resistance with the other empire. That's a very powerful tool. You can basically gate your enemies and pick your fights wherever you please, which is one of the things, one of the defining features of the Drakken that make them so scary. They just know, they can freely decide when to fight and how to fight. It's powerful. So, what am I going to do? Well, first things first, what are the Fitzy tiles that you should be concerned with if you are playing as a Drakken? First and foremost, the most important tile you can even think of is gonna be the industry tile. You need that more than anything else. If you have something with a lot of industry and nothing else, it's tempting. Go for that. The second most important tile, a little bit less important, but still very important nonetheless, is gonna be the food tile, because you're gonna need both. As for dust and science, don't care really. Happiness is of course always welcome, but not that important. I am of course talking right now only about settling your first city. Now why is it so important? Because as the Drakken, you cannot be punished for overexpanding early. You can just force truce on an early aggressor. So if I overexpand early to all of those territories and cause the other mages to be angry at me, I can force a truce with them and buy myself more time to actually prepare troops. Drakkens along with Wild Walkers are the best early expansionists in the game just because of how they cannot be punished. As a result, you want your first city to be like a breeding area where you just spam settlers, so you need to have a lot of industry to do this at a decent enough time frame, and you need at least a decent amount of food to actually be able to make up for the lost population that you're gonna use and convert into settlers. As for dust and science, that's where you're gonna colonize next, so you don't need to worry about it in the first stage. So what we have is an amazing place for food, I mean, this black F really is giving us a ton of food. So if I were to settle over here, as you can see, 18 food is great, but only for industry. This is not a good place for my first city at all as a result, because I would not be able to make my settlers at a decent enough time frame. If I move my city to, like, let's say somewhere here, it gets up to like 6 industry, and that's probably as high as I can get in this region, which is still not that good. In all honesty, I would like to have a bit more. So what I'm gonna do first is scout around. This region looks like a grassy region. I'm not expecting much more there. This, I think, is gonna be a tundra-y region, which means a lot of science, some dust and food, not a lot of industry. So some pretty bad luck up until this point. But let's not lose hope yet. Let's move our scouts around, and if it is necessary, I'm perfectly fine not expanding right away. So there is something, there are the geysers, which gave us some extra industry. That is tempting, however this could be the only industry tile in this region. However, we need to check it out further, so let's go ahead and send our second group of scouts and see what is awaiting us in this particular region, and looks like it's not that bad, all things considered. There is some industry around, there is Mechondria as well, there's Black F, which is nice for future expansions, for when I want to have a bigger city here. But what was most important is that we've got Trembling no, that's Spiral Rockbill right next to the geysers. So if you look, by settling here in this spot, I'll get a maximum of 6 industry. If I settle right here, I'll get 10 industry and 14 food, as opposed to this place with 10 food. So now the real question is, do I want to move? And basically I'm willing to say yes, because by settling over here on this tile, I'm also going to gain not only happiness, but also a really nice amount of both science and dust. Now dust in particular will be necessary for me later. Why? I'm going to try and remember to explain to you at the later point. So this area is better Fitzy-wise in all possible ways than my starting area, my starting region rather. So I do want to move and expand here at a later date. And I can create a very fast growing city here later because of the amount of food I have. But if I were to create this in my breeding area, that would be pretty bad, all things considered. I cannot settle my city on the first turn, which is acceptable. In my opinion, if you don't settle your city on the first turn, it's still fine, you can wait for one more turn if you think that it's better for you to settle somewhere else. And in this case, I totally think that this is the case. Unfortunately, my first manufacturing will be the Sisters of Mercy. It looks like I have plenty of them in this region, but they're not the worst that I could possibly have. I will talk a little bit more about the desired manufacturing in a second. But actually, why not talk about them right now? I'll end the turn? No, I will not, because then the notifications will go away. So, what kind of manufactions do you want to be looking for when you're preparing to settle your first city or your future cities? Well, the single best manufactions for you are the ranged manufactions, because your army, I think I can actually go ahead and end it. So quick look. Yeah, that's that, and that's that. Alright then. So I think that the single best support units that you can gain are ranged units, because your army will get clustered up in combat pretty badly, trust me. You'll have all those units trembling, walking on top of each other, and this will be a mess. You will not have any idea what is happening, and it will be pretty difficult to wage a successful battle. That's why you probably need to have, some kind of range unit to compensate. For that, the best are, and the only options in fact, are of course the Jotus and the Hurnas. Jotus usually are recommended because they have extremely powerful stats and abilities. The problem is, in order to make Jotus maximally effective, you need to have a good enough hero with them as well that will hopefully increase their range. If you remember, Jotus start with a range of 2, which is not a lot. You ideally want to have a hero that gives Jotus the range of 3. That's usually the Wild Walkers or the Roving Clans hero. Problem is, as the Drakken, we have access to the best heroes, army leaders rather, in the game, because those guys are amazing. Their stats are pure beauty, and their skills are also nothing to sniff at either. Fast Learner gives them a ton of abilities really quickly. They can heal your army, which is extraordinarily useful for the Drakkens, and when necessary they can also hit the enemy for a ton, which again is pretty useful ability in combat, if you don't mind me saying so. So out of the two, if you were to choose between Jodas and Harness, I would go for the Harness, because Harness have additional range that is superior to the range of the Jodas. Overall, Jodas may not be as strong of a unit, but Jodas also give you a better Empire-wide bonus additionally. So they are ultimately superior in every way for you when you are playing as a Drakken. That said, if you have no access to the Harness, don't be afraid to pick on the Jodas, they will do you well. Now, I'm going to talk about the other factions soon, but firstly, you probably don't want to be staring at the screen anymore, so let's settle my city. Just, to prove that this location over there is the best. We can see that this area over here does not give us a lot of industry at all. This place gives us a bit more, and of course there is a city a forest over there, which gives us even more, but this I lack. It's not 12 industry like it is over on this town, for example. But unless we discover something amazing nearby, which we didn't, I conclude that this area is really good. It has 10 industry and amazing potential for the future when I actually want this to turn the city into a proper functioning city. So let's go ahead and deploy that, and there is our first city. Now, what about the other minor factions that you may want to assimilate? Well, you need to consider what do you need and what do you want. So for example, I have a few selection of minor factions that you may find interesting. One obvious faction are the demons, the Kazanji, because they give you a bonus to influence, and influence you will need to enforce peace treaties, alliances and whatnot with other factions. So Kazanji will make this job a lot easier for you. That said, personally I don't believe this is a good enough reason to go for the Kazanji if you just want to have the extra prestige. However, Kazanji and also the Undead are both very useful army additions for you because of the chain lightning ability. Because, as I said, your army tends to cluster up, makes an easy target for the enemy army. What you can do is you can force the enemy army to split via incorporating chain lightning units into your army, which in the end forces the enemy to give you space to move into with your army with Drakken links and actually deal some damage. Very effective strategy. What other units can you consider? The eyeless ones are not a horrible idea. They give you a very nice Empire-wide approval bonus, which is great, and they can also heal your Drakken links, which is again amazing. But if I were to choose between having an additional Drakken link or an eyeless one in your army, I would probably go for the Drakken link, because eyeless ones, it sounds good on paper, they can heal your army and they're very good at it. But in practice they can also get sniped very easily, especially against opponents that have area of effect or just simple ranged attacks. Still, eyeless ones are not the worst option. The other two options that I consider backup kinda are the Guarins that give you a bonus to was it defense or life? One of the two. Still make your units even more indestructible, but you don't really need to be more indestructible in most cases, so it's only if you want to overdo it, you can go for Guarin, or if you have no better alternatives. And finally we have the Sisters of Mercy, which are actually a very good idea for you to assimilate, because they increase your base health regeneration outside of combat by 5% for each pacified village on each of your units. Your units have a ton of HP, so giving them additional 5% regeneration for each pacified village, oh man, that's a humongous amount of HP you're gonna regenerate each turn. Your armies will be invincible. So having Sisters of Mercy here, not the worst thing ever. Alrighty then, I've talked long enough about the minor factions you could assimilate. Let's actually start doing some work. So I can turn off my Fitzy overlay, and what do I need to do? Well, first things first, remember that your units can actually start the game with ability to talk to minor factions, which you need to use as quickly and efficiently as possible. You want to grab as many quests as possible and pacify as many villagers as possible. Especially if you play on a hard difficulty of minor factions, you need to clear those minor factions quickly, because while you don't need to be afraid of enemy players, you need to be afraid of those minor factions. I learned this the hard way long ago. Now, as for the research, this is actually interesting because Drakkens don't necessarily have to go for the Holy Trinity of industry, food and science. You can adjust the Holy Trinity when you play as them. You can, for example, decide that you want to go for Search Party, Seed Storage and Public Library. Or better yet, you can go for Mill Foundry, Search Party, Public Library into Seed Storage. Now why is that? That is because your first city will be used to just amass settlers, and depending on how fast you settle new cities, you may not even be able to erect those new structures that you will research, depending on your initial science output, that is. And in the meantime, search party is something that you will gain immediate effect from, and this will be immediate bonus for you. Pretty important and pretty useful. So if your starting science is good enough, and if you do not have the ability to super quickly settle a new city, then yeah, I think it's fine to go for the search party. I will, however, adapt on the fly. Right now, it says like I'm better than average, going to get Mill Foundry in 2 turns. That is a very nice score. Alrighty then. So first things first, let's go ahead and actually talk to the Sisters of Mercy and see what they want in order to get them pacified. Let's parley. That's 5 food, industry science, dust and influence in my city for 5 turns. In return, I get Quicksilver and pacification. It's gonna be pretty annoying because it's the city that is supposed to provide me with settlers rather than have all the stuff. Especially influence will be a pain, but I can get to it. As you can see, all I need to do is work on influence a bit harder. But this quest is not the priority for me. Thankfully, it is gonna be easy enough to complete later down the line, so I'm really happy about the quest I got right there. Quicksilver, not the most important thing for me, but it's still nice because it does give me this extra experience, which, again, combined with my fast learning ability, is a pretty beastly combination. Now, let us actually discover those temple ruins. And I get 10 emeralds, not too bad indeed. I can use that to immediately buff my happiness in my starting city, which is not necessarily necessary at all because it will not increase my approval anymore. For fervent, you need to have 90%, so I wouldn't get to that anyway. Where do I want to keep looking? Do I go up north or do I try to go over here? I'm curious what is in this region because it connects me to the Wild Walkers and Voters potentially, and it might be a highly contested region right over there, so I want to see what is there and if I should contest it myself. As for the city, the build queue is very simple. Start with Founders Memorial. Now, ideally you will hopefully settle on an area that gives you enough food to get a population in 1 turn if you work on food. In this case, that is not the case, so I'm going to start off by working on industry in order to get the Founders Memorial a turn earlier. This way I can finish Founders Memorial and gain access to Mill Foundry on the same turn, and also gain my population increase again on the same turn, which I would not avoid anyway. So that's pretty good, all things considered. Ideally, on turn 4 you want to have access to Mill Foundry, you want to be done with your Founders Memorial, and you want to have free population. If you're slightly off this mark, then it's okay, but this is the ideal situation. There's our faction quest. Again, as always, you can go ahead and pause the video to read this for yourself. I don't think it will be any problem. New objective, level up 2 Drakken still there, level 2. In return, you get 80 dust. Now, the thing about the Drakken main storyline quest is that it's kind of not that interesting. It's not difficult to complete. Most of the quests, aside from like 2 really late ones, are very easy to complete, and you'll find yourself completing them just kind of by accident along the way. But most rewards for the Drakkens are also random. They can be anything. Usually it's dust, it can be like some resources or an artifact. Usually though, they're not that worthwhile, however. There are a few specific things, like the ooh thingy something, I forgot its name, or the spheroid, or something along those lines, but there are very few of those for the Drakkens rather. And again, you just kind of get them along your way by accident, because that's how your quest is formed, which is pretty nice actually. You don't have to worry too much, you're just gonna complete your quest anyway. So let's just wait for our Drakkenlings to reach level 2, should be easy enough. Now the thing about your Drakkenlings is you actually want to take care of them, because the longer they stay alive, the more levels they have, and in late game you want to preferably still have your first, the first units you start the game with, because they'll have insane amount of experience by then, hopefully, and with superior equipment, if you were to retrofit them, they will be pretty much unkillable. So those 2 regions so far not that I'm using. I do have Guarin over here, which, like I said, are a potential ally, especially if you combine Guarin and Sisters of Mercy, which you totally can do. That's a scary combination. It still doesn't resolve your difficulty with, you know, mobility of your armies during a battle, but it's a deadly combination nonetheless that doesn't require you to actually make any manufactured units, which again is not that bad, all things considered. Where is that? Oh, that's far away. What do I get for this? I have no idea. Let's try to get there anyway. 5 turns I can make it, and maybe I'll find something useful along the way. Anyway, the thing is though that all those minor factions units that are usually so powerful for you when you're other factions, for the Drakkens that's less the case because you'll find your regular units quickly grow so out of proportion with the levels that their stats will just be superior to anything you can get from minor factions, which... What was that? Have you heard that? Maybe it was just me. Anyway, maybe it's something outside. What was I talking about? I don't remember. There was a noise outside that distracted me heavily. Whatever. I'll heal a little bit up, that's not too bad, I can talk about this a little bit. So I have my specific way of leveling up my Drakken here, and that is to start with the Indiana Bones. Why is that? Because I want to go for a very particular skill route. First of all, I do want to at some point gain access to Battle Soul, because that gives me, at maximum level, extra 30% life of units, which is incredible considering how much life your units can gain. Additionally, Friendly Banner is not that good, not that bad, but also not that good. But what else do I want to have? I desperately want to have No Idle Hands. Now, you could argue that you can also gain access to No Idle Hands by going through Defensive Tactician, but it takes one more level to actually max out, or rather reach No Idle Hands, because you have to go and grab Keen Observer first as well. And at some point, I will grab Keen Observer because I will need the Battle Helm to make my Drakken links actually useful. Defensive Tactician is not that bad, but not necessarily that important either. Still, I believe that because of our fast learner ability, which again gives us extra experience gains, it is that much more important to get No Idle Hands as soon as possible. This will make your army grow incredibly powerful. So let's apply the changes like so, and be on our way to gaining No Idle Hands. So there we go with that. Let's keep on exploring, and we have actually titanium in our starting region, that's not too bad. And I forgot to talk to the islands once. Mistake happened, not too bad. Let's see what quests they give me. 10 spices and 10 blood crystal for pacification. At this point, I think it's more worthwhile to just go ahead and kill them, because islands ones are not that good at actually fighting their battles. So I think this is exactly what I'm going to do. But probably I'll leave it for the next part, because this video is quite long already. Although maybe not, I'll think about it. Anyway, first things first, let's go ahead and grab some more quests. Firstly, from the Delvers, they want me to colonize their region. They give me emeralds in return, but colonizing this region not necessarily what I wanted to do, but it's nice to get this quest nonetheless. Meanwhile, the Guarin, what quest do they want to give me? They want to get glass steel in return for pacification. Not very good, because it would be cheaper to just give them dust and bribe them to pacify them. But it can be efficient if they have 2 or 3 villages in this region. If it's just one, it's better to bribe it. So there is that then. Do I really want to attack the islands once? There's only 2 of them and I have my hero, I'll be fine, I cannot kill them. But in my main city, what do I want to do? Well, I need to start working on Mill Foundry and then actually work on my settler. So for my settlers, I want to retrofit them, that's the important bit. And I want to give them extra movement speed, so that they can reach new regions faster and colonize them more quickly, so you can more quickly gain new benefits from them. It's extremely important. So let's apply the changes and have our upgraded settlers and have them in the build queue. Right now it looks like I'll gain a new population point in 2 turns if I put all my population working on food, which is okay. I will probably need to have 3 population if I want to gain my settler growth quickly, but then again, I do believe that it is actually a better idea to go ahead and finish Mill Foundry as quickly as possible, although it would be a bit more difficult to actually finish making a settler than if I only have 2 population in a city. So I will actually go ahead and finish working on the 3rd unit of population before I start making settlers, and then I'll make 2 settlers right one after another. I believe that this will be more efficient. So let's go ahead and have our first fight, attack this unit. They have the Sea Pillars. Now they have awful attack and damage and only 4 initiative. This should be an easy prey. Do I dare to go for auto battle? Well, I can reload the autosave, but this should be a devastating victory. Those guys are incapable of doing anything to you. So let's see how it goes. Yeah, I took some damage, the enemy is alive somehow. It's okay though. It did give me some experience, so that's the important bit, and I'll kill them on the next turn. And I did not schedule any research, which is important. Let's go ahead and get our search party. Like I said, there is no reason not to, because in my main city I will not be making storage thingies anytime soon, so I might as well do that. Anyway, let's go ahead and finish off the islands ones, no problem whatsoever. I should actually heal up a little bit during this fight, which I totally did. and I have failed the quest, which is okay by my standards. At least they will not be spawning there and troubling me in the future. Of course, those Sisters of Mercy will trouble me, so I'll need to deal with them at some point. Right now though, I want to complete this quest, so let's go ahead and keep moving, and then I'll clear the Sisters of Mercy. I'll not search those ruins just yet, that's because search party will be done in one more turn, and then I'll queue up seed storage and public library. I will actually get seed storage before public library. Let's not get too radical, shall we? Alrighty then. Guarin spawned over here, that's pretty bad. I do want my units to survive, so let's go ahead and keep on moving along to this territory. And this will be all of my own movement, and that's more Seratan. Seratan, alrighty then. That's somebody that I discarded here. This region altogether is not really all that amazing, I have to be honest. There's nothing interesting here other than Guarin villages. I wouldn't colonize it unless I really needed to. It's a decent enough region to blockade the enemy units, but it doesn't serve any other purpose really. So let's go ahead and finish this turn. And now I do think I'm actually going to go ahead and finish my video recording. I'm going to move all my population into industry production, because right now I don't need to be working more on food. It will be stopped soon enough anyway. I do want to be ready to start working on the cellar, however, and by overflowing industry it will be put into the cellar right away and allow me to start working on him more quickly, which is rather important. As for my units, might as well, I know I'm supposed to end the video cast, but I might as well go ahead and discover what is within those ruins. 5 glass steel, that's not too bad, it will be actually kinda useful. And make my way towards those ruins, and I should be able to make it in time. Eric is right there. Okay, that's interesting. And this region looks like a decent enough region to colonize in the future. It gives me some happiness. It doesn't look like it has a lot of, or any industry at all. No, it doesn't. Ouch. But it's not necessarily the worst thing that ever happened. Also, if I start over here, where there are meteor fields, and expand towards this way, it would be better. So, I might consider it at some point in the future. Not right now, however. Right now, I don't want to be here. It's for later colonization process. Now, as for my Drakken links, let's go ahead and obtain a quest from the Seratan village and see what they have for me, because if I can complete it easily, then that's nice. Rewards are important. So, locate the right Alice ones in Gimal and destroy them. Is Gimal this region next to me? No, it's Sung Age. I don't know where Gimal could be. Alright then, that's a quest. It gives me nice rewards, so I guess it's not too bad, but again, not something that I'll go out of my way to actually complete. Alrighty then, I believe it's about time. Ladies and gentlemen, it was PANCZASU, also known as the Mighty Mixpire. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon enough with part number 2, I meant to say. Thank you very much for watching again, and I'll see you online.